This is Legacy Battle. Make sure you hit like and subscribe on whatever you're listening on. I'm Michael Adams, creator of Legacy Battle. My panelists tonight from the Gridiron Battle Zone, Brian King, from Steelers Nation South, Rollo Cawthon, Ball State athlete Paul Havicott. Our special guest tonight, we're joined by a linebacker out of Fresno State, played with the Cleveland Browns and the San Diego Chargers. He's got a couple defensive touchdowns in his time, one on a fumble return, interception return. Of course, he's got sacks, he's got picks, he's got everything you could think of. He's a former Cleveland Brownie. You can see the picture in my background here. So we're joined by David Grayson tonight. David, thank you for coming on.
Oh, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Happy to have you here. Tonight's topic is going to be the greatest AFL defensive back. So we are going back a long time for this one. And
Yeah.
of course,
it was different then too, because when they played man on man, they played man on man. It was a fight. So it was a whole different thing, head slapping, all different type of stuff. There would be a lot more, then it would probably be a lot more personal foul, pass interference, holding. It would have been a nightmare. But, I probably would have got kicked out of the league if I played now, the way I played. So,
definitely a different game then. And
definitely.
As always, we're going to have a Q&A for David about his career after our debate here. But we're going to start out with Rollo tonight. Go ahead, Rollo.
I have Willie Brown, who was originally undrafted out of Grambling State University, where he played tight end, linebacker, and defensive end, which is important, which is part of the reason why he'll be mentioned among the greatest. He initially got a tryout from the Houston Oilers after being undrafted, after legendary coach Eddie Robinson convinced the Houston Oilers to give him a tryout. He wound up getting cut during training camp, but the Broncos wound up picking him up that season in 1963. He wound up becoming a starter mid-season, his rookie year, and then the next year is where he really took off. He's widely credited as being one of the first players to play bump and run coverage. And it was because he was transformed from the linebacker, defensive end to quarterback, but he didn't have the feet. So his words, because I didn't have the best technique, and after not playing cornerback all my career in college and high school, I knew that if you beat the hell out of receivers coming off the line of scrimmage, that's going to be tough for them to catch the ball. So he just got up in your face and basically beat them up at the line of scrimmage. After mastering that technique, he had 9 interceptions in his first season as his first full starter, and he picked up his first of 3 first-team All-AFL votes. He would go on to be first-team or second-team All-AFL 6 times. He also is one of 4 players in AFL history to have 4 interceptions in one game. And that was against the New York Jets. He's ranked number 98 on USA Today's top 100 players of all time. He's ranked number 66 on NFL Network's top 100 players of all time in 2010. He's also ranked on the Athletics top 100 team in 2021. He was number 98. And he's also 1984 Pro Football Hall of Fame. He was also an NFL champion in 1967, and he was also first team All AFL when the vote was picked up by the AFL coaches and general managers. So Willie Brown, legendary, and his presence today is still played. Technique is still played in the NFL.
So David,
unfortunately. Because, bump and run is an excellent technique, and that's why games are so high scoring, because you can't really touch a wide receiver coming off the line. They're going to call a penalty. When I played, I put they usually put me over the tight end because I had good feet, and I would have got called for holding just about every play. But going back to we're talking about the past and the way the game was played. They played hard. Bump and run was bump and run all the way down the field. you know, and the head slap they used to have. My dad was really good friends with Fred Belendikoff, and Fred used to have all that stickum even before Lester Hayes. He used to have that stickum, and yeah, it's just and then the sad part is um guys like the gentleman you were talking about, my father, don't get the publicity that guys get now that come out of the league for a couple years. They go on TV, they go in the Hall of Fame. My dad's kind of forgotten. I'm going to have to, make that drive to get him in the Hall of Fame. Nobody else is going to do it for me. And he should be in there. He still has records, that haven't been broken. But, he's not on anybody's mind. I think the last article that I read about him being in the Hall of Fame was 2020. And then each year that goes past, people forget. So, it's one of the things I have on my bucket list is to get my father in the Hall of Fame. He deserves to be there.
Well, let's go Johnny Robinson.
Yeah, I went Johnny Robinson. Robinson was selected by the Dallas Texans in the first round of the 60 AFL draft. He played all 12 years for the Texans, but sort of a rare player that played for one team, two names, because the Texans became the Chiefs in '63. So his first 2 years in the AFL, he played flanker on offense and rushed, had 658 yards on 150 carries and 1,228 receiving yards on 77 receptions. So he ended up making the move to safety later on in his playing career. I think the last game he played was Christmas Day of '71. So this is some of his accomplishments here. Super Bowl IV champ, Pro Bowl '70, first team All-Pro '70. He's the NFL interceptions leader in 1970, three-time AFL champion, six-time AFL All-Star, AFL interceptions leader in '66, AFL all-time team, Kansas City Chiefs Hall of Fame. He ended up finishing out his career with 57 interceptions, 741 interception yards, 2 defensive touchdowns, and in that little time with the offense, he did 15 touchdowns. Johnny was elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame in February of 2019, and so this kind of goes into why he's unique. He ran out of eligibility and was selected to the Hall of Fame as a senior candidate, which requires 80% of the vote to get in. Robinson is finally getting the deserved recognition for his great play, and it's kind of what I think David's getting at here, almost 60 years after he played his first down of professional football. So that's Johnny Robinson.
Right. And those are some serious stats. When the game was a lot harder to play, I mean, the rules were, well, there weren't any rules. I remember my dad telling me, at halftime, they would drink beer and smoke cigarettes. I'm like, no way. And he's like, no, seriously. And it was hilarious. But it was just a different time, a different era. And even when I played, it was just a different time. And these guys got it made now. Oh my goodness. Um,
Can
but
you
there's still, still a lot of guys being paid a ton of money and a lot of guys that are just scraping by. And I mean scraping by at NFL level, not general public. I'm not going to make that comparison. That's not fair.
right? Well, some of our guys tonight are safeties, and some of them are corners. Can you like give maybe some of our listeners here like the difference in coverages for a safety and a corner?
Oh, let's see. A corner, the ideal corner is, for example, in Cleveland, we had Hanford Dixon and Frank Minifield, and we could game plan with those guys without them. So it's like, okay, you guys are taking the two wide receivers, and now we're going to game plan because we have an extra person now. And it gave us a tremendous advantage. So, when you have really good safeties and really good corners, it gives your defense just a tremendous advantage of the things you do. If you have safeties, that can walk up and take a running back man on man, and then blitz a linebacker, it's just like an offense keeping, a defense on, off balance, by having a balanced offense. The more things you can do, it keeps the other team, at bay, and having those type of safeties and corners, I mean, it's a tremendous advantage.
Right. So we got two more to go tonight. Let's go George Sains. And so with George, he's 5'11", and he was a safety, of course, out of Michigan State. He was drafted by the NFL and the AFL in the 6th round, which that's a pretty late round, especially back in those days. I know that
what was it, 12 rounds in? 12 or 18, something like that.
Somewhere in that, and there were a lot less teams too. So, and
that's true.
I know Paul's player was drafted in the 1st round by both leagues. But anyways, so George went on. He played for the Buffalo Bills from 63 to 69, and then on to the Broncos from 70 to 72. He was a great player in the AFL. He's got 2 AFL championships under his belt. He's a 3 first-team All-AFL, 2-time second-team All-AFL, and a 5-time All-Star overall in the AFL. He is a member of the AFL all-time team as well, which is just, it's a fantastic accolade. It shows what he meant to that league at that time period, of course. He's on the Buffalo Bills Wall of Fame. He's also a member of the Greater Buffalo Hall of Fame. So not just the Bills, Buffalo in general love this guy. He's got 22 career picks, 4 fumble returns, and a touchdown. There's a lot you can say about all these players tonight. You're kind of like just picking the difference here between apples and oranges, of course. But I think 5 times being honored is pretty solid. I think he has a good argument to be at the top of this list tonight, but we'll see how it goes later on. So your thoughts on George and his stats there?
Well, George, serious stats. And that shows a lot of consistency, over the years. But I just can't imagine why not, especially in the era that you played. They weren't throwing the ball 50 times a game, and that's a big difference. A lot of people don't realize, the game has changed a lot. This is an offensive oriented game, completely. It's, if you blow on Tom Brady, you'll get, a 15-yard penalty.
That's the truth.
For defensive guys, we had to work, for our money. And to have that many interceptions, that's a lot of interceptions. God, I had 2 in one game, and I thought I was bad stuff, but that's serious. And he should be in the Hall of Fame. And I just think there should be a committee to recognize players that have played in the past, because there's a definite, if you're not on TV, if you're not doing a TV show, you're forgotten. And there are tons of really, really great football players that aren't popular, that played offensive line, tight ends, it's just, and you have sport writers, I think, are still contributing to the voting process also. I don't know. I just don't understand it. And, I'm going to try to do what I can do for my dad. He passed away in 2017, unfortunately, but, he definitely deserves to be in there. He was 5'10", 185 pounds, and, he could do it all. He did it for a lot of years too. So, he definitely deserves to be. And there's just so many other players, that we spoke about tonight, that, just because they don't get this social awareness, they're not going to get in. You basically have to hire a social media campaign, to push somebody forward.
So let's move on to our final player tonight. Go ahead, Brian.
All right. So I'm going to represent David Grayson Sr., quarterback, free safety out of Oregon. Like you just mentioned, 5'10", 185 pounds, 1961 and 62 with the Dallas Texans, with the KC Chiefs in 63-64, and the Oakland Raiders 65-70. Grayson went undrafted, but eventually signed by the Dallas Texans in 1961. In his rookie year, he took an interception 99 yards to the house. The next season, he helped the Texans win an AFL championship. And he also made his first AFL All-Star game. In 1963-64, he was a Chief. That was when the Texans relocated to KC and changed their nickname. He continued to assert himself as the best cornerback in the AFL. He made the AFL All-Star game after both seasons, was named All-AFL in 1964, and led the league in interception yardage with 187 yards. In 1965, for some inexplicable reason, he was dealt to the Oakland Raiders in one of the most lopsided trades ever. He ended up rewarding the Raiders' trust in him by delivering his best season. Pro Football Reference has a stat called approximate value, and Grayson's figure was the highest in the league for that season. He also took 2 interceptions back for touchdowns, including a 79-yarder. In 1967, he switched to free safety, but still performed at a high level. He is the only player we're talking about tonight who was named All-AFL at both cornerback and safety. In 1968, he led the AFL with 10 interceptions. He ended up with 48, which is more career interceptions for the AFL than anyone else in that history of that league, that 10-year history. He had the most. In all, he was a 6-time AFL All-Star, 4-time AFL All-Team selection. 3 times he had the longest interception return of the season. And let's not forget, he came up big in some big games as well. He picked off George Blanda in the 1962 AFL championship game. And he scored a touchdown against the Oilers in the 1967 AFL championship game. helping to send the Raiders to Super Bowl II. So perhaps the greatest defensive back in AFL history, David Grayson Sr.
Thank you. That is awesome. You schooled me on a couple of things I didn't even know. Yeah, but he was a hell of a football player, very well respected around the league. I was a little kid, I didn't know much, but I was in the locker room at I think 4 years old. I'd be in training camp. And it was awesome being in the Raiders organization because they really had a real family style atmosphere. And that's why that team and John Madden were able to get these guys to produce and play as hard as they did, is because they were treated very well. My dad was, a tough Henri. He had the short man's complex, and he wasn't going to be beat. He was just one of those guys. So, I got the opportunity to learn a lot from him, just growing up. We used to play football. I mean, we used to play chess. He schooled me on a lot of things. So he definitely, deserves to be in there. And, after hearing what you just said, it kind of mind boggles me that he's not. It's got to be politics, because those are some pretty serious stats.
Yeah. Well, let's move into our vote tonight. And can't vote for your own guys. Paul, who you voting for?
I'm going to get David Sr. out of the way.
Okay. Rollo, who's the best?
The man's got 47 career interceptions, would place him in the tied for top 47th place all time with interceptions. He had 908 return yards. Put that man in. He's got more interceptions than Mike Haynes. Put him in.
Brian?
Well, I mean, I would vote for Senior, but you said I can't vote for my own, so I guess I got to go with old man Willie Brown. He was a hell of a player.
Yeah, and I like the guys that had the flexibility to play corner and safety. I think that's very impressive, and usually it doesn't happen in the prime of your career. It happens later towards the end. We saw that with like Rod Woodson, Charles Woodson, guys like that. But I think David Grayson Sr. he played both at a high level, during the peak of his career. So he's getting my vote too. David?
Since I can't vote for my dad,
you can.
You can vote for him if you want.
I'm voting for my dad.
All right. So that's a win for David Grayson Sr. tonight as the greatest AFL defensive back of all time. We're going to move into our Q&A. Brian, you got the win. You'll be first, and then we'll go Rollo, Paul, me.
Okay, David. So September 10th, 1989, at Three Rivers Stadium, a murder was committed. Cleveland Browns 51, Pittsburgh Steelers 0. David Grayson Sr. with a pick six, a scoop and score. What was that game like for you and for your teammates that day?
Well, going into Pittsburgh, you always expect a tough, grind, 6 yards in a cloud of dust game, and, when I got like when I got the ball from Rod Woodson and ran in, I thought they were going to call it dead, and they let it go. I scored that touchdown, then I scored another, and I was going, okay, they're going to come back eventually. I know it, it's the Steelers. And then I had another fumble recovery, and I was like, I think we got this one because our offense was playing well. So we weren't on the field that much. And then the really cool thing is my dad was actually at that game in Pittsburgh.
Oh, that's cool.
Nice.
So, that was really nice to, play that way in front of him. But yeah, that was a ball. And, I really don't get too hyped up about that stuff because I knew next week was coming up. But no, that was pretty cool. That was a pretty cool day.
It was good enough for AFC Defensive Player of the Week, so can't go wrong with that.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Go ahead, Rollo.
You were on Tecmo Bowl, right? So you know how today,
Yeah.
You know how Madden players,
Tecmo Bowl.
You know how players today they go crazy over their Madden ratings. You were
really
in that game. Did you guys play? Did you guys actually play the game, and then
No, I didn't even know about it until I came home one season, and a couple little kids at my mom's house, they walk up to me. They're like, "Oh, you suck at Tecmo Bowl." And I'm like, "What? What are you talking about? Like, yeah, you suck at Tecmo Bowl." I was like, "Yeah, at least I'm on it,
There you go.
But I heard about it, but to be honest, I've never even seen it. I'm not really too caught up into my own self, I guess.
Go ahead, Paul.
David, who's somebody in the NFL when you were playing that surprised you with their strength? Like, who's one of the toughest people to take down? Was it Christian Okoye, or you have any good stories about that?
Well, Christian knocked me out. So, that's that story.
Knocked you out when you were trying to tackle him, or?
Well, we had a game plan. The game plan against Christian, you have to have him going east and west. He goes north and south, you're in trouble. Okay, we got him going east and west, and who do I see flash past me? My inside linebacker. I'm like, oh no, he's gonna cut back. Christian cut back. I dove in. I caught my head on one of those legs, and it was lights out. But he wasn't. There were some Herschel Walker, was tough. A surprising person was James Brooks. James Brooks was like hitting a cement wall. And there are only a couple guys I've ever run into that have had that type of, body composure. But yeah, he was just, I was like, what? You little guy, it's like hit the brick wall. Jackie Slater was a hell of a football player. Anthony Munoz his arms were so long, I never even touched his jersey. But yeah, there are a lot of good players out there.
So I wanted to ask you, I'm looking back at the division during your time period when you played. You had the Oilers, the Bengals, and the Steelers. So as a Cleveland Brown, what would you say to you guys in the locker room was the biggest rivalry? We know what the fans think, but what did the players think at that time?
Oh, Pittsburgh, without a doubt. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Pittsburgh, because I mean, you knew it was going to be a very hard-nosed game. They were going to run the ball, they're going to grind it out. It's just one of those games, it's going to be tough. And then you throw in Cincinnati, and it's like, okay, you're at a magic show, and What was the head coach?
Sam Weish.
Sam Weish, yeah,
Yeah.
all type of trick plays, but definitely Pittsburgh was definitely going to be a physical game, which was all good.
Brian, finish us out tonight.
All right. Well, sadly he passed away about a year ago, but your coach in Cleveland, Marty Schottenheimer, can you tell us what it was like to play for him?
Probably one of the best coaches I've ever had. Well, I would say he is. Marty take no crap. We worked extremely hard. But Marty was extremely fair. He was very honest. He didn't BS play. He didn't BS players. He didn't play games. He told you what you had to do to improve. And if you did those things, he would play you. But his honesty, his work ethic, and his ability to keep everybody calm, because we never panicked in a fourth quarter, which amazed me. We were down, one game, I think 42 to, something, and nobody's panicking at all. And that was from Marty. And it was a shame to see him go, even, with the Chargers, he goes 14-2 and he gets fired. It's like, my God.
Yeah, that was
But no, really enjoyed playing for Marty, Dave Adolph, Bill Cower. Bill was a great coach. We had a really good coaching staff, so we were lucky. It's just, we had a lot of changes in Cleveland, with our head coaches, because, geez, Marty was there 2 or 3 years, and they brought in Bud Carson, which was a hoot. Bud was crazy. And then they fired Bud mid-season, and Jim Schaffner was there. So in 4 years, I had 3 coaches. So.
Wow. Well, we want to thank David Grayson Jr. for joining us tonight. David, we appreciate you coming on.
No, it's my pleasure. You guys call me anytime. Love to be on.
Awesome. Well, remind everybody, hit that like and subscribe button on whatever you're listening on. Keep watching. We got lots more football shows coming in the future. Everyone have a great night. We'll see you next time.
All right. You guys have a great time. Have a great weekend.
You too.
Hey, Dave. Nice to meet you.
Clear.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it, buddy.
You guys.